years, she's worked for international management consulting firms such as Accenture and PricewaterhouseCoopers. She's led numerous HR projects in supporting organizational restructuring and large-scale system implementations in both the private and public sector. She's worked on multiple organizational development projects with various assessment tools and is now leading the OrgMapper business line with Maven 7. Our second guest speaker today is going to be Bethany Evans, and she brings a wealth of experience in all aspects of business management, strategic planning, and culture management. She identifies patterns of behavior and process to develop a vision for cultivating innovative, strategic, and operational plans for her clients, forging their path to success. She's also a trusted partner of Maven 7 and a certified OrgMapper consultant. She's also a loyal supporter of using the network approach as a critical step in M&A and integration planning. So with that all being said, I'm going to turn this over to Hisk right now, and she's going to kick it off today. So Hisk, it's all you.
Thank you very much, Taylor, and welcome everyone on the call. Today our topic is about mergers and acquisitions, and in particular how OrgMapper, our diagnostic tool, can support the successful integration of two companies. Now, M&A is, I guess, a general term that is used to refer to the consolidation of companies. And here you can see that an acquisition or a takeover in the yellow is that one company purchases another company and there is no new company formed, just a larger one. And I guess the merger, the difference there is that it's about a combination of two companies to actually form a new company. So both situations is a type of restructuring. It's a change project with the aim of extra growth and positive value for the organization. However, achieving a successful merger or acquisition has proven to be very difficult. And as you can see on this slide, that 70 to 90% of mergers and acquisitions were actually unsuccessful or fail. And I think it's because the integration process of two companies proves to be very complex. It has many dimensions that influences the outcome. There can be many causes actually identified as for failure. And before I go on to that, I would like you to participate in our first poll. We have a question for you on the screen, yes. And it says, I would like you to think about what areas would you say companies typically focus on during an M&A transition. So when two companies decide to look at how they can actually be integrated to be a better and more successful and more valuable organization, would you say that they focus on whether the companies are a strategic fit, whether the management has the same vision, or would they primarily look at a financial fit, how they can, I guess, improve the books in the end and be more commercial, or do you think they look more into the operations of the two companies and how they can best make efficiencies to create a better organization? Or would it be in the cultural fit? So how do they actually work together and what are their values and processes? And lastly, do you think the human capital side of the organization is important? And should we focus on people issues? You can select all of the ones that you like, so more than one. So please go ahead and make your selections. It should take only a little while, so just be quiet for. Okay, we're going to close the voting now, so we'll see the results in a second. Okay, so the top priority or the top focus, you say, is a strategic fit, 80% of you, followed by financial, operational, 7% cultural fit, and no human capital. Okay, That's quite a strong result. And actually, that is the case. This particular diagram shows you that what you voted is all in the blue areas. Those are the typical areas that organizations think they need to focus on heavily. And of course, they're very important. They need to be all sort of, I guess, explored and written up in the business case for the merger and acquisition. But, however, the neglected areas in orange are equally important for success, because it proves that the failure of mergers and acquisitions is often due to not managing the people-related challenges. And then I'm talking about, cultural clashes, the different styles of working that don't match up, loss of key talent. People leave because their company integrates with another one. There is inefficient communications about the integration and the whole transformation process, or even people are not able to implement the changes that are asked. So I guess in summary, a merger or acquisition is a big change program with certain characteristics that need to be looked at in the people and the cultural area. So really, to have a successful integration of two companies, it includes that you understand the cultural implications of both companies. Employee engagement needs to be built, it needs to be improved, and your talent needs to be retained for the new organization. So today we're going to talk about organizational network analysis, and that's ONA for short, in short. And this is the diagnostic method to visualize the inner workings of an organization, and we call that tool OrgMapper. Now, because culture and engagement and communications, they're just not easily visible on the surface. And we believe that with our diagnostic, we're able to measure and map some of these cultural differences. We can map key employees, and we can follow and monitor the integration progress, I would say. So we can follow how it's going. So I'm going to give you a quick taste of what OrgMapper can do to support a merger or acquisition, and I'm going to show you two examples of network maps. And the first one you see here, this is about identifying key employees, identifying key opinion leaders in this case. So with OrgMapper, we are able to identify these key opinion leaders, and these people are really well suited to accelerate the transformation process, and these people should be retained in the new organization. Why they are important? Well, because they might have special expertise or knowledge that is considered a key asset to the new company or to the growing company. And they might also have capabilities such as influencing power or strong informal networks that are essential to the integration. So key opinion leaders, such as the person represented on the left in the red dot on the map, he or she is a well-respected, trusted colleague and is considered to be an engine of the team. And as you can see, connects really well with the grey departments around him or her. So to lose that person, it would leave a big gap, as you can see on the right. So a key opinion leader is very important for a successful transition process in case of M&A. The second map I want to show you is mapping cultural differences. And OrgMapper identifies key cultural aspects that focus on similarities and differences between the two companies. So it's important to understand what's different and what's the same. And you can think about, differences in decision making or the way that people are used to work and behave. So typically the things that are not clearly visible. And if you do an analysis, then, for example, this map shows for both companies how people communicate in order to get their work done. And company A on the left, their communication style is quite hierarchical, and the communications are mutual. That means it's going both ways. The arrows are going both ways between people. And the green lines show us that the communications is actually quite efficient. Now, company B, on the other hand, shows a more informal style of communications, with communications going in one direction, and the orange lines indicate that there is definitely room for improvement. But in both companies, you can see by the circles, key opinion leaders have been identified who can assist with effective communication. So these are two examples, but concluding my introduction, I would like to explain briefly how we develop these maps before we show you more during this webinar. And this is the essence of OrgMapper. So think of our analysis method, our diagnostic, as the blue box in the middle. And on the right, you see the network map that is created. So that's our product, our result. And it consists of dots and arrows. And the dots, or the nodes, they represent the employees. And employees with key roles are highlighted. In this case, slightly smaller or in a different color. And the arrows show the relationships between employees and how strong these relationships are. Now, to create the map, on the left-hand side, we need employee characteristics and questions. So we gather HR data that are meaningful to both organizations, such as role, department, hierarchy level, geographical location, but you can also think of the numbers of years working for the organization, or expertise area, gender. Any characteristic we can actually include into our tool, even performance indicators. Now, for a merger and acquisition process, we will use relevant questions that also go into our analytics. And those are questions, of course, related to work behavior, decision-making, change. And you can see some of the example questions in orange. So we combine all of this in an online survey, and the survey is sent out to a selected group of employees or to all employees in both organizations. And what is important to notice is that when employees answer the questions, they can only select the names of their colleagues. So it means that our tool is based on peer assessment and not self-assessment. And it also means that, for example, the key opinion leaders who were highlighted in the network that I showed you before, are actually most frequently selected by their colleagues, and therefore very a valuable asset in a transformation process. So that's my introduction for you, and I'm going to ask Andras now to show us more examples and explanations of how these organizational networks can assist us in preparing for a successful integration process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vicsek, for the great introduction of the topic. And what I really want to talk about today is how organizational network analysis and understanding the underlying informal networks in a team or in an organization can help in an M&A situation, which is, of course, a lot about managing change-related communication. As Hiske said, those are the areas in some cases which are mostly neglected during an M&A process. And I would also like to show case studies on post-merger integration, how the network maps can help to understand what's happening and how you can build really high-performing teams from different companies. Before I go into all of these details, again, I would like to ask you to answer the question. And the question is, what channels do you use to communicate organizational changes, such as a merger or an acquisition, but it can be any type of change in the organization, such as a new IT system, moving to a new office, something that is large scale happening, that is influencing the everyday life of people in the organization and the way things are getting done. So, of course, there are different formal channels, such as the newsletters, the intranet, message from the CEO. It can be even like a video message, an announcement during meetings where the management is presenting about the change process. And, of course, there can be an involvement of change agents who are the real influencers in the organization. So we have 65% of the votes now. We'll just give some more time to you to make the selections. You can select several. You can choose several of these alternatives. Okay, we're above 70% now, so we will just close the survey. And we can show your responses. So it's as you can see, most of you are saying that there's an announcement during the meeting, probably from one of the middle managers. Then there's also 85% of you saying that there's a message from the CEO. Of course, that's I think very important. And 77% of you are saying that you have the newsletters, you have intranet, 62%, but only 23% of you are saying that you are actually using change agents and influencers in the change-related communication. So this brings me back to one of the topics I really want to talk about is what just came out from this short survey is that companies really tend to focus on formal communication during a change process, such as merger and acquisition. And what we mean by formal channels is what we just saw, the CEO sending out a message, newsletter from the HR, putting the messages on the intranet, using the company systems, and so on. On the other hand, when something is changing around us and it's like really big time happening, like another company is buying us, or we have to work together with people who we don't even know, with a different company culture, then something happens, inside the people, and it's more about the psychological aspects. It's about something's happening around me. First, I may be denying the change, saying that no, it's just rumors. Things will go on the same way. Then, after realizing that it is actually going to happen, I will probably become really angry or frustrated. Then I will start bargaining on, okay, but maybe this will only, the merger will only influence, sales and marketing, and I'm in the finance department, so everything will stay the same here, so I don't have to worry. But then again, you realize that, yeah, you have to work together with other finance people and use other IT systems and financial systems, so then you become really depressed. And if you have enough information on changes, then you will be able to move on to the next stage where you get information on the positive side of the changes, some things that will be more efficient, you will have more opportunities to reach out to, and then finally you accept the change. But the most important part, I think, in this emotional curve during the change process is what happens is, because it's related to your emotions, you're not only looking to get information through newsletters and formal channels, but you start asking the people who are credible to you, the people who you trust, who you know really well, who can deliver insights or additional information on the changes. This is why it's really important to understand the informal aspects of communication and the informal networks within the community. Because if you don't know who the influencers are, then what will happen is something that you see here. On the left side, what you see is the network of communication between the employees of a company. You see the same network here on the right side. The difference is, on the left side, we highlighted the senior management members with orange On the right side, we highlighted the informal key influencers coming out from the survey who have the most connections within this community with the orange node. What we're going to see is how information will spread from one person to another in the community, and the level of information spreading from the top management or from the key opinion leaders. So in the first step, if they just talk about the changes to the direct connections, you immediately see on the right side where the key influencers were highlighted that a lot more people become orange, a lot more people become informed about these changes. And it's not just formal communication. They usually, explain what is going on or can answer questions. On the other hand, on the other side, you see that managers reach, just a little portion of the community. And it goes on, they just keep on, I get the information, I spread it to the next person, and then I spread it on. But statistically, what we see from all of these studies is that influencers actually reach 3 times more of the community, of the people, through their connections than managers do. So if we are not able to involve them to understand what will happen and engage them in the whole process, they might be the ones who are the most negative and spread a negative influence about the whole change process. And this is what sort of things might happen during such a change process. This is an actual case which I talked to an HR director, and he told me that he was amazed that they were sending out 2 newsletters to the all-employee mailing list. First one was about moving to a new office. And in 2 weeks' time, they sent out another newsletter where they were saying that there's going to be a layoff of 20 people. They're sending away 20 people from the company. And the amazing thing was that some people were coming back to him, and there were a lot of rumors about what was causing negative emotions. Basically, people believed that the management is firing 20 people because they were renting an office, a new office, which was too small, and the 20 people just didn't fit in the new office, which sounds silly. On the other hand, this can generate a lot of bad emotion, and managers can lose their credibility very, very quickly because they were just focusing on these formal channels like newsletters. One other thing that we know and we can see is that with other survey methodologies, you will be able to pinpoint a certain problem. For instance, here you see with an annual survey, you will probably see that most of the employees feel uninformed about changes within the organization. On the other hand, you don't really know what is going on. I mean, what is causing them to be uninformed? Where is information lost? Who are the influencers you should be involving to make information spreading quicker or more efficient? On the other hand, this is an example. We worked for a manufacturing firm which had 3 locations around the country, and they had all sorts of problems with change communication. A lot of rumors coming back to them about layoffs. People didn't really understand what the strategy was. All very typical, of course. On the other hand, they didn't know what is happening, what is causing these types of rumors. What you can see here, down here, are the top management members who are connected, and everyone in the network is connected. If they were saying in an online survey that they do need to communicate with the other person, like for instance, these 2 people are connected, if they said that they need to communicate or they communicate with each other around change-related issues. So what you see here is basically the top management is having a lot of discussions, what is going to happen, who's going to be involved. They are passing on the information to middle management and also discussing it with them. On the other hand, what we should be expecting is the middle management explaining all of the happenings and all of the aims of the changes to the supervisor or the lower level managers who are working actually at the factory sites. But these connections are actually missing. So there's one person here talking to this person in the factory. Maybe they're just having a coffee or cigarette together. On the other hand, a whole lot of middle managers are not explaining, not informally talking about what is going to happen in the organization. And on the left side, you see still lower level managers will be talking about these changes, maybe without the proper information that they need. Those are the rumored part of things. And one interesting thing that came out from the study is that there was actually a person who was the greatest information spreader, who most people received information about changes. And I don't know if you can guess what the job role of that person was. It was actually the environmental health and safety manager, who was moving from one factory site to the other, talking with a lot of people, doing the trainings and the quality management and so on. And by the way, of course, talking about what he heard from one place and sharing it with the other, but without any strong connection to management. So what we could show here is, you should focus on your middle management. You should see, why they are not capable of explaining or discussing these changes with their lower level managers. Train them, help them to become, more assertive in these areas. And also, these are the list of people who are the key influencers in the factory site who you should be involving in when you're starting a new change initiative. How we do this is first we set up a list of attributes of the key opinion leaders that we're looking for, because it's not only change communication that we want to use them for. We probably want to refine the whole change process, have their ideas involved. That's why we're looking for innovative people who are really expert at what they're doing, who will be good at solving problems which probably will come up during the change because it's not a smooth ride, of course, and who are the people who are energizing others and making things happen. And at the end, of course, it's very important to know who the popular employees are, who will be actually going back to their colleagues, explaining things, and making everyone realize why it's important and why it's good to go through this whole process. Another important issue is that you do have to involve the identified key opinion leaders. It's not enough to have a list of the key influencers. That will not change anything, of course. You will have to be able to have some kind of program, workshops, or involvement to use their expertise in the process. It can be really some kind of workshop where you're showing them some kind of framework of what is going to happen, but still asking them to have their ideas of like, okay, we're moving to the new office. Do you have any ideas on how we should do the seating, or during the merger process, again, how we should do the integration? And because you're involving them, they will be engaged, they will be happy to participate. And also because they have been nominated, not by their managers, who was telling to them like, okay, there's going to be this change initiative. Now go, beside doing your daily work, go to this workshop and do another job. It's the other way around. It's the community and his own peers who are saying that please represent us during the change process and help us to have our voices heard along the way and make things smoother. So it actually energizes and motivates these people to take part in these programs. And what you can expect after involving key influencers or key opinion leaders is, of course, people will learn faster and adapt much quicker, be more motivated, and engage in the whole process. You will have a lot of great and brilliant ideas from your most innovative people who are representing others within the community. And to come back from the communication of change directly to the merger topic, this is a case study. We worked for actually a company where there were 5 companies previously coming together to join and merge into one big IT company. And there were all sorts of problems because all of these IT companies had a little bit different profile, totally different culture and way of doing things, a different client base, of course. So everyone, when they heard that they were going to form this huge, big company, they were really afraid that they were going to lose a lot of their clients, and also that a lot of people will actually leave the organization because they will be unhappy with the new culture, with this big company that they have to work in, and that they're going to lose the things that they liked in their previous work environment. So what we did here is, first of all, we identified the key influencers from every company. Then they did a lot of interviews. So they did basically 440 interviews with their own colleagues in their own companies to understand what are the sort of things that they like to do, or how they like to work in their company, what are the cultural elements they really want to keep in the new organization. Then after the interviews, there were 31 proposed actions or projects coming out from these interviews and these workshops. And after the workshops, it turned out that half of these proposed actions or projects were actually finished in 3 months' time, which was a great thing, because not only were they building a new way of working together and a new behavioral style for the company, but also they were actually building trust between their most important people in the different companies. So this was actually the first phase of the integration on the human capital side, because working together on these types of initiatives and projects really brings in a lot of discussions, arguments, and of course a lot of joint effort and common aim. And of course, after the merge takes place, it is always very important to look into and measure the efficiency of the post-merger integration. What we can do is, besides having the online survey to look into how the networks look like and how the integration has taken place, is also to look into the email communication between the employees coming from one of the companies and the other company who have been either merged or one of them bought the other company. So what you see here is, you have company 1, company 2, and you have the different functions here. So this is the sales team of company 1, this is the sales team of company 2. Same way, marketing here, marketing with the other company, and finance here at the bottom. What you see is you have connections between the team members here if they're exchanging a lot of emails, and you see the strong line between the teams. Again, if there's an intensive communication between these teams, the stronger the line is, or the wider the line is, that means they're actually exchanging more emails. So what you can see is, of course, there's a stronger communication between sales and marketing. You don't have too much communication between marketing and finance, and so on. But after the merge, of course, what we're expecting is we want to see that there's a lot of communication. So the sales team becomes one sales team, the marketing becomes one marketing team, and the finance again becomes one marketing team. And also there starts to be more communication across the functions as well. So in this case, what we see is, they were happy because they seen that there were some connections that were actually happening. For instance, there was a stronger connection between, the marketing teams from company 1 and company 2. On the other hand, there was just a weak connection between the members of the sales team, the sales teams coming from the 2 separate companies. And of course, one thing that they saw was interesting, the pattern that the sales team from company 1 was not using the expertise of the marketing team from company 2. They still were sticking to their own people at their previous company. And you can see all of these patterns arising, which can help you to focus on, where you need to do more, put in more effort into building trust between team members or between different teams and functions, maybe with seating them into the same place, or building, or giving team building workshops and events to them. And also from the color of the lines, you can also see that the response times or the response frequency of the emails. For instance, the red line here between sales and marketing here means that although they are exchanging a lot of emails, the response time is typically below their average response time than to other teams. So somehow they don't feel it's important to react very quickly to sales and marketing here. Again, you see that you need to look into that, because at the end of the day, this will influence the whole integration. Will it be, will it really be one new company, or will it still be just 2 teams who are working separately, just trying to connect in some case, which you of course don't want. Another I think really important topic is the top management team of companies who are anyway coming together and forming a new company, or there's some managers coming into the new company. The success of the company really relies on the trust between their top management members. If they cannot work together, then you cannot really expect people below them to be motivated to work together. So in Hungarian, we have a saying that the fish stinks from its head. So this really just means that if there's some problems on the top, that will go down, and there will be problems at the lower levels as well. That's why it's really important to focus on the top management team as well, not only how the functions are communicating. For instance, in this case, what you see is we were working for a manufacturing firm where they had a new strategy, which was a lot based on developing new products and developing their previous products to the next level. And they were like, they already felt, and mainly the HR person was feeling, that there are some internal problems in trust and collaboration between these individuals. So they said that we really want to change this, and we feel that we won't be able to move on with the new strategy with these new with these conflicts that are really damaging the performance of this team. So what we did is mapped the trust-related connections, which are the blue lines. This comes out from an online survey where we're asking questions such as, who do you ask for advice on, personal problems type of questions. So if they are pointing to each other and there's this type of trust-related connection between them, you see the blue line. On the other hand, I think the more exciting one is the green dotted line here, which is like potential new connections that they should be building. The question was, strengthening the collaboration with which of your colleagues would bring the most to this team or to the organization. So these are not non-existing connections, as you can see. There isn't any trust between these individuals. On the other hand, they are directly saying that they should be building these connections because the company would benefit from it and the team as well would benefit from it. So it sends out a direct message on, yeah, we need to sit down and do something about this because if this doesn't change, and you can see, I was talking about product development being one of the key focus areas for the new strategy. You can see that the head of product development was actually the person who had the least connections in the trust network, but the most connections on people wanting to build or strengthen the connection with him. So the good thing is that you can work on these connections, you can do team building, you can do conflict management, and so on. And after the interventions, you can go back and see and monitor how things have happened, how new connections were built. Like for instance, in this case, the product development guy was building new connections with the supply chain person. On the other hand, he still had problems with communicating with the maintenance head of maintenance. So they still saw that they still need to do something about it. And you also had a new person coming in here for quality management, and you could see like, okay, he has some kind of integration, but these are the people who he really needs to build the connections to. And the question, of course, would come up like, how can you map this? Where does the information come from? What we have is OrgMapper, which is an easy-to-use platform which Iska described. It's a place where we just send out an invitation through email. People just log in very easily with a password, and then they answer questions like, who do you turn to for advice related to a certain topic. And from these answers, the system automatically generates reports, visualizes networks, highlights key influencers, and generates top lists that you can use, for instance, for change agent programs and identification. And this is what I wanted to just summarize on how OrgMapper can be used, for instance, in change-related communication and post-merger integration processes. But I would really like to involve and pass it on to Bethany, who is a partner in Consentia Global, and who will share their experience on how organizational network analysis can play an important role during a merger and acquisition process.
Thanks, Andras. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Hishka, Andras, and Taylor for having me today. As Taylor mentioned earlier, I am a certified OrgMapper consultant. I use OrgMapper as a tool to reveal critical data to support us in developing successful interventions to help our clients. I'm a loyal supporter of OrgMapper, and I really believe that it's a critical step in successful M&A integration planning. So I wanted to take a few minutes today to share my perspective about the results that I've seen from working with Maven 7 and utilizing OrgMapper. Using the approach of organizational network analysis really is integral to planning a cultural integration immediately following a transaction. When planning integration steps, we can't look at just the org chart to decide who the key players are and which departments will integrate easily. If nothing else, history has taught us that the cultural integration isn't easy. It's not as easy as what looks good on paper. we really need to take a deeper look at how people interact, how they function independently, and what their attitude is towards their team and towards their company. As managers, consultants, and companies as a whole, we take so much time and use so much energy looking at the synergies in our products and services, in the operations, in the finance, and the marketing. We use all of that to calculate the success of what the mergers and acquisitions will be. The cultural synergies really deserve at least that much attention, and in some cases even more. The people are really at the heart of every business, and over time they develop relationships, processes, and traditions that really can't be uncovered using the typical due diligence methods. All these aspects are really the aspects that will have a measurable impact if you're able to identify them and address them during the integration process. Using OrgMapper as a tool to gather cultural data really is a game changer for mergers and acquisitions. The output that we receive from OrgMapper, it allows us to look at, analyze the people aspect of the company in the same ways that we would other operational aspects of the integration. So in a typical integration planning scenario, we'd look at the org chart, we'd carefully interview the management teams from both companies, we'd learn about the cultures, talk about the key players in both of the companies, the intricacies on both sides, try to learn about the synergies between the two groups, then develop a communication plan and cross our fingers and hope that this builds engagement with both teams. Well, there's a number of shortcomings with this approach, and we've seen it all in the statistics. The three big ones that I have seen, one, we've learned that a big portion of the time, what the management team is telling us about the rest of the team is not wholly accurate. This could be for a number of reasons. It could be because they're trying to put themselves in the best light for the deal, because they're not in touch with the perceptions of the rest of the company, or what is the most typical scenario is because as a human, these managers are seeing things from their perspective and have a bit of a skewed view of the perceptions of others outside of the management team. So we've seen this trend at Concentra Global, and McKinsey research has also supported this. And they've reported that about 50% of merging companies' management teams have read their organization's culture differently than what their employees do. Typically, they exaggerate the significance of their own leadership style, which again is a very human trait. This is one example of why developing an integration plan around one particular group's perceptions is really setting yourself up for failure. Second problem with this approach is that the entire company is not represented when interviewing only the management team. The perspectives of the people that drive the business really need to be taken into account. Many of those people are not always represented on the management team or the org chart. What OrgMapper does is it helps us identify those people within the company that are thought leaders, that are opinion leaders. Sometimes these people show up on the org chart, but many times they do not. These are the people that are the rising stars in the company, the matriarch figures, the people that have been with the company for decades, or sometimes it's the person that has the candy dish on their desk that would not show up on the org chart. Once we can identify who those people are in the company, we can conduct the additional interviews. We can gain a deeper understanding of the people, the processes, the traditions, and then we can develop a truly strategic communication and integration plan. It's going to include these people, engaging them to be part of that process. The third major shortcoming with the typical cultural integration approach is that it doesn't uncover how people actually work. Do the employees of these companies, do they get their work done in a task-oriented fashion? Or are they team-oriented? Are they autonomous? Is it a culture of innovation or a culture of command? And how do these tendencies differ from location to location, from department to department? These differences could even change based on age, social groups, or cliques within the company. The options for the differences in people and culture, it can be overwhelming once you start to think about it. Not knowing all of these differences and similarities in how people actually work from day to day, it puts a company at significant risk, not only for failing to integrate culturally, but it opens those companies up for a slowdown in production, an increase in errors, and redundancies in some areas where there's voids in others. The way that we use OrgMapper at Concentra Global is to analyze all of these areas up front, use the actual data of people's perceptions and work habits, and plan the cultural integration by playing up the synergies, taking calculated approaches to the differences, and making sure that we're decreasing that learning curve. So, communication, it is so important. It has a huge impact on your organization. Efficiency in communication, it saves time, it saves money. It's a huge key in coordinating the integration of cultural aspects, along with the other aspects of your integration, the operation, finance, and strategic pieces of the deal. All of this is important to your deal because you're going to gain additional profit from your increased efficiencies. If you've done deals in the past or you're planning on doing one, I'm sure you've done a lot of research. You've read all the statistics. You've heard 70% of integrations fail or don't recognize their full planned value. Out of that failure rate, 80% of those are attributed to poor cultural integration. The reasons cited for that are failure to look at the cultural piece. It's because it's too hard to measure, it's too hard to plan, which is the perception anyway. Managers perceive that the culture aspects are too hard to wrap their arms around, but using OrgMapper, the network analysis approach, it really shatters all of those perceptions. It now gives us a way to get a quantifiable and measurable result to the typical qualitative process. OrgMapper really is a game changer in ensuring the success of the processes and programs that we've been developing for our clients. The results are they're so powerful. Here at Concentra Global, we've been able to use the data that we gather from OrgMapper to measure the effectiveness of the programs that we're putting in place for our clients and helping us develop all of our strategies that we're putting in place, including developing business and process continuity plans, helping reduce turnover, identifying pipelines for succession planning, developing leadership programs, developing structures and assigning roles to make sure that we're performing optimally, assigning appropriate uses of resources just to make sure that we're maximizing productivity, identifying those efficient processes, and helping develop enterprise risk management plans and issues. It's really limitless on what you can do once you have some data in your hand. So really, the bottom line and the key thing that I wanted to communicate today is that if you want a successful transaction, the people aspect cannot be ignored. It really has to have a huge focus of your integration. By using organizational network analysis approach, you can focus on the cultural aspects of integration that have been so elusive in the past. And using OrgMapper with Maven 7, you can measure the perceptions of a company's employees and turn those attitudes into data. It really arms you with the critical information that you need to have a successful and profitable integration.
Yes, thank you, Bethany, really for all of these, sharing all of your experience on this area, and really what we want to emphasize is, that network analysis is a powerful tool that can help you really to understand, predict, and control what is going on inside your companies, what your process is, which is of course very important for merge and acquisition processes as well. We have short amount of time left for questions and answers. So if you have any question you're interested in for us to answer, then you can either write it in the chat field, or if you raise your hand, that also works. So we already have a question here. In what phase of M&A process is best to use OrgMapper? before or after organizational changes or other milestones? Yeah, thank you for the question. Basically, there are two phases where you can do two different types of analysis. First, once you're starting the whole process and you want to have a really smooth change process, identifying key influencers and involving them to understand, what is going to happen is crucial. So I would say, at the beginning of the process, I would definitely focus on identifying key influencers and involving them. On the other hand, after, in the post-merger phase, that could be important to see how the two different cultures, companies, teams have started to work together. Has the integration really been made? This can be like half year after the merge has already been formally closed, where you still need to do further developments and integration. Okay, there's another question here. Does OrgMapper analyze data from emails or surveys only? In OrgMapper, we have an online survey tool which is totally automated, which means you can run a survey yourself, set up a questionnaire, send out invitations, and if you're certified, you can generate the reports yourself in the system. On the other hand, we are capable of analyzing emails, internal emails, log files from the telephone communication, SAP system, the meetings, invitations, and so on. Yeah, there's another question. What OrgMapper models do you use more in M&A processes? Yeah. So first, okay, we have 5 different OrgMapper models, and ChangeMapper is the one for change management to support the acceleration of how people are informed about the changes, to identify key influencers. So that's in the first phase of the merger and acquisition. Once we want to involve these individuals and see where information might be blocked. On the other hand, once we have closed the integration, it's always important to see like the top management team cohesion with ChangeMapper, go into the details of how they're collaborating, and the next level would be to look into with Performance Mapper, to look into focus on how the different teams coming from the two companies are working together on a systematic level, which I showed in my example. Also, I think using KnowledgeMapper during a change process can help in risk management. If you want to look at who are your key experts in certain areas, change time of mergers are bringing in a lot of bad emotions, and I said, and it can be that your greatest experts are leaving. So knowing who they are and focusing on their retention and approaching them with succession planning and motivational systems is, of course, something you can do with KnowledgeMapper. Yeah. How often do change agents not appear on the formal organizational structure chart? Good question. It really depends actually on the culture of the organization. So we have seen companies where like more than 80% of the key influencers were actually coming from the higher, senior management levels. On the other hand, we have seen companies where these influencers or opinion leaders were almost all of them coming from the bottom, the lowest employee level, and they were not managers at all. Yeah, so there's another question about the phone log file aspect and email. Is there enough information on your website on how to engage further and use the system? yes, there's some information on the website, but we can also share information with you. You can contact us through the website or by email, and we can share additional information on the log file analytics part. Okay. If there's no further questions, then I would really like to thank all of you for your time and your active participation and your questions. And we are going to have further webinars in the future, so keep your eye out, and we will also share some information on this. And I will pass the word to Taylor now.
All right, thank you, Andras. Thank you, Hishk and Bethany. Great presentation today. And I just want to take a minute to thank all of you for attending today's M&A webinar as well. And like Andras mentioned, if you have any questions or you want to schedule a private demo on one of the other modules, do not hesitate to contact us through info@orgmapper.com, or of course you can visit our website for more information. If you want to reach out to me directly, Taylor Cleaves, over LinkedIn, or you can email me and I'd be happy to set up a demo. And we're also at the end of this going to send you out, everyone who participated today, an email with all the content as well as a recorded audio of today's event, of course for your viewing pleasure. And we really hope to see you guys all in the next webinar, and we'll be sure to shoot out those invitations to you. So again, thank you everybody, and have an excellent day.